if I'm beginning the tour in this way, then my future self discovered that my tour and my honest chat with you were a bit too long to be one video. So check back on the channel for my honest chat with you. I'm not sure what I'm exactly going to call it right now because it's not in production, but yes, if you're seeing this, you know that you need to see that video first in order to understand what you're going to see in the tour. But let's go see what's out in the garden. Normally I start at the front end of the garden, but this time we're going to start toward the back. Our noodle beans coming up here, not looking as glorious as I had hoped, but I mean it's still pretty darn good. We actually got some rain yesterday, which really greened things up. I mean, definitely not enough to really help our drought issues we're having. This is the first noodle bean of the season, by the way. That's very exciting. This is the asparagus bean. And another noodle bean looking pretty good. And more of our first noodle beans of the season. Very small. These can get really long. Okay. So working our way along the back. Couple of these peppers that we have started during our spring seedling tour, and I stuck them over here and struggling a bit. But something we have been doing is trying to work on mulch. A lot of this is leaves from actually my parents' house that they didn't mind me taking. So this pepper bouncing back, it was struggling a lot when I put down this mulch, believe it or not. I feel like it was just heating things up, but with my spot watering on some of these plants and putting down mulch to keep moisture in, they are looking a lot better. There's actually a little bloom here. If I can get in there. A Jimmy Nardello. They're coming back. They're coming back. There's still hope. And this is that Bolivian coriander with a different name, and this is looking really good. Everything got buried with this mulch, and this kind of came out and is just loving life. My other ones are struggling hard, but this one's looking good. Have not used it in cooking yet, but looking forward to it. And right in there, our Indian gherkin really spreading out. Not going up the trellis as much as I had hoped, but it's something that I would probably just have to work on to get it going. I already kind of started it and it's sprawling all out here. Honestly, again, just too hot. And it seems that the Indian gherkin does like a bit of shade, just like cucumbers do. I thought I was being smart by putting it right here by my back door because I do know it's so hot here and I don't want to go hunting for cucumbers in the back of the yard. But yeah, these could benefit from a little bit more shade, but it is overcast, so it is looking actually pretty good right now. But yeah, I was hoping they would get up on the trellis. Looking really good. The Cuban oregano, a very succulent-like plant. We use this a lot in our cooking. And this, the eggplant from our last tour that I said were buried underneath all of those plants from fall and winter, and actually gave us an eggplant, and it's blooming all over the place, as you can see. Very nice, much better looking than when we saw it last. Gosh, so many things. Peppers galore. I have harvested this bird beak pepper, which we talked about in our last tour, how this was from our Rebel Seed video, my little short I had done, and it just exploded with bird beaks. Been harvesting a lot, and goodness gracious, I gotta do more tonight. The basil looking wonderful. Definitely going to seed, but still using it. Mullein plant, this plant there, and that plant. Also another toilet paper plant. Gosh, it's been hot. It's hard to really keep up on everything. But something I have been doing for the summer is rescuing my edible hibiscus. Yes, I need to put down some mulch. I had this in the front yard growing very well up against the house a couple years back, but last year being a difficult year and this year as well. And honestly, I didn't set the beds up. It's basically, you know, just stuck these plants in the ground. It's basically sand. Let me show you. I mean, literally, that's what I'm standing on right now. And I stuck them in the sand and just mulched heavily and just had the idea of, let me just water them every day. Maybe that will help. I don't think so. They were not looking this good. I mean, this is not their prime of how they look normally in good conditions, but this looks better than the front yard, and it's just a testimony again to me how much I need to build up this sandy soil. I mean, it's just straight up sand, let me just say it. And yes, putting in lots of mulch does help, but it helps over time, not in a one season of a layer, and that's that. So I'm experimenting putting them in these containers because I have better luck with putting things like this in an area where I can keep better moisture in the containers, and we'll see. Another seedling pepper right here from our spring seedling tours, looking good. But what's not looking good is our winged bean. Oh my goodness. I mean, I do see some new growth, like right about there, some new growth, but it's just not looking good. But if you go over down this way, the noodle bean is looking great. Not bad, no diseases, very green. And I have a short that I plan on putting out, if I didn't already, of showing how you need to know your garden in order to know what plants to grow. And the thing that I'm struggling with is, I've said before, the sand in the soil, and sand can dry out really fast. And this winged bean over here needs very moist soil, lots of organic matter, and I just don't have that. I have been watering it about every day, which has been keeping it alive, I guess you could say. But the noodle bean that's looking really good that you just saw, that is drought tolerant, and it is handling what I can give it very well. So again, know your garden and you will know what plants will work well for you. And that winged bean and noodle bean is a great example of that. So I am really thinking about doing more drought tolerant plants next year, because you're going to see that in the garden, that is what the winner is. And I'll show you right over here. This in this container is a cowpea. I have 3 plants in there, and this is like one of the number one things to grow in the heat, in the humidity, and in drought-like situations, which we are in. So this is a testimony to grow what is working with what is happening in your garden. Cowpeas. And I have many more. Cowpeas, cowpeas, and more cowpeas. And I also plan on a video with this as well, because not only am I planting for a summer harvest, but this is also thinking in the future for our fall and winter harvest, because I want to put lettuce in those pots again like last year, because it worked out so well. And cowpeas will help put nitrogen in the soil, which our lettuces will need. So this is not only planting for now, but planting for later. And another observation with these cowpeas that I thought was very, very interesting was back in this area here in this tower, I actually put some fertilizer in there, and beans generally don't need that. But look how green, or at least hopefully you can tell, very green and lush these cowpeas look. Didn't put a whole lot in, just sprinkled it in the soil, moved it around, but looks a lot better. as far as greening up goes than these two in the front. I didn't put any fertilizer in there, but it's still looking really good. But this one over here, it might be hard to tell, but this has a thick layer of mulch on top. And this one here in the front does not. It might look like it in the camera, but it's not. And in comparing the two front, from what I can tell, this one does look a smidge better with that mulch, which by the way breaks down and helps feed your plant as well. And actually I don't have any mulch in this one, but it's just interesting to see the differences in, you know, how a plant grows with what you do or don't do. Just something to think about. It is nowhere to be seen. This might be, no, that's not it. Oh wow, it's really gone. Today is, I think, May 16th, 17th, and you probably already saw it, but at this point it's not out. But I am working on the video. Our super hybrid from our single seed challenge is no more. I do have an Instagram now. Some of you have been asking me about it, and I thought, you know, that might be a good idea to help you get into the garden more with me. And like I said, some of you were asking and would like to see that, so I'm offering that now. I have an Instagram. But in the Instagram, I did a post yesterday about how our super hybrid is no more. So yeah, get involved in that if you want to see more of the garden and get more quick updates on what is going on. But our super hybrid, our other super hybrid that I had put in later, is doing pretty darn good. So I am not going to complain. As I've said, it's just, I just want more watermelon, or I just want some watermelon. And next to the super hybrid, I did put in some more Thai Soldier long beans. This is part of the Three Sisters project I wanted to do, and man, it's just not looking that good. It's not just the little bug well, there's a lot of bug damage, but we do have our tassels up, which, to be honest, I'm very shocked that we do, because the caterpillars have been just decimating them and living down inside. And before these tassels had come up, you know, when it was down in the plant, you could see the worms down the middle. So I'm actually surprised it got this far. But so here's where the pollen is, and this pollen needs to pollinate your ears of corn. And well, we actually have one ear of corn starting, but there's no tassels showing up on the top. And that's what you need, is the pollen here to fall on the tassels of your ears of corn. That's what pollinates your corn kernels and gives you the corn that you like to eat or replant for next year. And that's just not happening really. So this Three Sisters garden is probably gonna be a fail. And it was going to be a Three Sisters garden with a twist. I was going to have it to be a little bit of a tropical theme. Instead of having the squash run around on the bottom, I was going to have the watermelons. So, and yeah, that's been a struggle this year. And I did plant the conch cowpea that I mentioned in my Everything I'm Planting for Spring video, and only one came up, and it just went kaput right when it germinated. So I did plant these. The Thai Soldier long beans, my favorite noodle beans so far. I planted them on the front ends in hopes that as the corn grew, these would grow up on the corn, but honestly, these are probably just going to end up running across the ground, which is fine. I mean, yeah, our Three Sisters garden I don't think is going to make it, but you know, we'll get something out of it, I believe. And the seedless watermelon, still trying to keep water on it. And that bloom that we saw at the end of update number 4 is now closing. We'll see. We'll see. Moving along the back. I want to do a perennial tour in the future. We'll see how things go. But man, some of these, like this cassava, this is a tropical root crop, looking very, very good. And that's the thing I am finding, and I knew it in my mind, but I'm seeing it more this year, is that sometimes grow what works. Grow what your area, your garden wants. I watch a lot of YouTubers who garden in Florida and talk about all this rain they're getting, and I think to myself, where's this rain? I mean, we had a good rain yesterday, but nothing compared to what others are talking about. And you know, you can look at their gardens and think, hey, they live close to me, let me do all this. And sometimes, yes, that works and you can get a lot of good information that way. But ultimately, you need to look at your garden and what's happening. And for me, I'm having a hard time keeping the ground moist. I need drought-tolerant plants. And some of these perennials are handling the more drier soils very well. So that's something I'm looking into and thinking about. Oh, look at that. I just noticed this. Here's some of the tassels on one of the corns. Huh. Yeah, all right. Might get a little more than I thought. Continuing the back. Our Aros Campolo pepper, that big old pepper plant from our fall and winter garden, still going, gave me some peppers. Our Vinca, oh yes, another example of just grow what works. I mean, it is going to seed. I don't know if you can see that. There's some seed pods. There we go. Hopefully you can see that, some seed pods. They look like brassica, like broccoli seed pods or something like that, but nope, it's the Vincas. And yeah, it's looking a little not as lush, because I believe because it's going to seed and that's what plants do, but yeah, still great. I'm taking a lot of cuttings, and that's something I'm doing this summer as well. As I might have mentioned before, is sometimes in your downtime or your more difficult seasons or times of gardening, do other gardening tasks, and I've been taking cuttings from a lot of these really good plants and just hoping to make more, like this Vinca, instead of trying to grow certain flowers that I'm just slaving over. I'm looking at what is working and trying to propagate more of them. So hopefully more in the future with them. And with this, now it doesn't look, I mean, it's the blooms have been spent, but it is the tropical sage. Very beautiful flowers. I really like this plant. It's a big success right now. And speaking of projects, my husband has been putting in irrigation systems in all the beds. You'll see a lot of those black, not really tubing, it's like this fabric like drip tape, I guess you could say, all around the garden. So that's what you're seeing, and he's been digging lots of holes to get these hoses down there to connect it all to our entire garden and our hose system around the back. A big task for sure. Keeping a lot of the drooping sunflowers. Ugh, you know, these have been attracting a lot of the leaf-footed bugs. I mentioned in my last video how the tongue ho plant was doing that, but now the sunflowers are. I don't see any presently on there, but that's good. My husband has been taking care of them really well, getting rid of them. Summertime, as I've mentioned before, is not a clean slate for me from the winter into the spring. I just let a lot of these plants, like the sunflower, go, and yeah, it might look sloppy, but it has a purpose. A lot of the time, like I said, they are attracting the pests like the leaf-footed bugs, and you know, if this is where they're going to gather and we can get them, that's a good thing. And I snuck in some more noodle beans, the Thai soldier long noodle beans. right in here, looking pretty good. Oh, here's more of that tropical sage, very nice. And the eggplant, this is the second generation of the hybrid that I saved seeds from that did so well last year. So it's a little droopy because it is getting to the later part of the afternoon. But I don't know, the hybrid that I did grow last year looked horrible at the start as well, but once we cooled off in fall, it just, whew, I mean, take a look at those tour videos, you'll see that practically eggplant tree. It got really tall. And the blanket flower from our purchase from our local plant festival. Once I planted it, all the petals fell off. I think it just went into a bit of shock. But I am noticing a bloom wanting to happen right there. So that's encouraging. The Vicks plant, oh my goodness, doing so well, just like the Cuban oregano. Again, grow what works. And a shock. The Abashi bitter melon, my goodness, not growing well at all, which I'm very shocked about because where I live, bitter melon grows wild around here. And last year it was growing all up our bench area. Right behind it, it was one plant. It was the most lush and healthy looking plant. So to see this, I'm very surprised about. Yeah, I'm just very surprised. I have been watering it every day because, like I said, with having a difficult time and keeping moisture in the ground, I've just been trying to do that. I'll still try next year. Since the sunchokes or Jerusalem artichokes did not re-sprout that I noticed, we put in some cassava up the back. The tropical root crop looking great once again. And more noodle beans, hoping to fill this trellis here. And this is where I grew those Indian Burgherkin cucumbers last year that did so well because it gets a little bit of shade because of our oak tree here, which is very beneficial to a lot of the plants that grow here in Florida because our UV index is just much higher than if you're in a temperate climate. So it's like in some cases a little more than double. So a little shade helps plants go a long way. So yeah, I probably should have put the cucumbers here now that I think about it, but this is fine. Another thing doing very well is our sweet potatoes. And sweet potatoes deal with more drought-like conditions. All right, actually I do have to double check that. I believe I read that somewhere. But I know lower nutrition in the soils they do pretty okay with, which this is evidence because I don't think I have the most nutritious soil for sure. So for it to be looking this good is great. But we did get that rain yesterday, which really brought to life so much. And what's really cool about this is I did not plant any slips this year. If you saw my video on, gosh, I don't remember what I called it, but it was one of my first videos about sweet potatoes, how to grow them, and my harvest and all that. And these plants are from that video. I didn't plant any for this year. They just came up from what was ever left in the ground from last year. How cool is that? And same with over here in the back of this long, what I call Titanic bed. More sweet potatoes, whoops, from last year. Disrupted some little creature. Another edible hibiscus I put in this bed in hopes to save the ones I had in the front yard that were growing in just nothing but sandy soil. So this does have more organic matter and more mulch and everything. I was able to just give it all in one go, so this is a better place for it. And it does get a decent amount of sun, and it really is, believe it or not, looking better than it did before. Might be hard to tell, but along this stem there are some extra growths happening, and I really want that to happen because then they can make some offshoots, and I can take cuttings and we'll make more next year and keep on experimenting. Right here, last time I showed you my melon plant and it just got eaten up by those green caterpillars, and I told you I was thinking of planting other watermelons just to do it, and I did. It's kind of blending in with the sweet potatoes. Ah, little wasp. Yeah. See him? There he goes. Ugh, this is my struggle in the garden. The struggle is real. Stop going. My goodness. I'm grateful for our bugs and that sort of thing. Because I know they do help the garden, but I struggle this time of year with them. But here is my new melon plant. I put in some sort of Asian melon that I got from the grocery store, you know, the melon itself, and saved the seed. And yeah, let me see if I can move this out of the way. But yeah, it's looking good. Look at that. See? Looking really nice. I don't see too much damage on it right now. I don't know if it's because of the variety, which I don't fully remember what variety it is, or if the buggies just didn't find it yet. But yeah, looking really good. However, the other one I planted here is not looking so good, and I can see the buggies have found it. And I did plant both of these on the same day, so I don't know what the difference is here. But I do see some blooms. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. And coming from there, we do have the pepper plant I showed you in the first tour on the edge of this bed. I mentioned that I had to really cut these plants back because they had, I don't even know what it was. Everything I read kind of had the same symptoms, but just a different reason for it. So I just cut them back, and they grew back. And we've got some peppers on there. This is the Jimmy Nardellos. Some peppers hiding right in there. Yeah, and a lot of blooms that are like this, like that bloom right there, bloom in there, all those little blooms turning into peppers. And I didn't forget, in this bed I planted that one potato, and I wanted to see how much you can grow when you plant one potato, and that video is coming. If you remember as well, I used to have, well, I still have sugarcane growing here now, but it used to go really tall, all the way up, 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 and we harvested it down, our sugarcane, and we actually did make some sugarcane syrup thanks to one of David the Good's older videos on showing how to make sugarcane syrup without having a press, because we don't have a sugarcane press. So yeah, we did it. I made 1 jar of sugarcane, but now all of those plants are coming back at the base. If you can tell, these are the original plants from last year that we cut and made our sugarcane syrup out of. And then from the base, it shot out more. And this is going to get huge. So coming from this area into this bed here, the Gomphrena. I planted this. It's obviously the white variety here, but it looks so good. It looks so cute. It looks like little bunny tails. And this is drought tolerant. It handles very poor soils very well, and that's what I have. And if you look over here, embarrassingly so, well, first I'll show you that. That looks nice. But it's my loofah plant. It was supposed to grow up, 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 and up the trellis as I'd mentioned, and no, it is not. Beautiful blooms though. Again, very, very bad damage with the worms that I struggle with, or I call them worms, but it's the caterpillars. And yeah, very, very bad, very bad. And loofah is always said to be grown in Florida as a fail-proof crop, but Again, knowing my garden, despite me living in Florida, and other people that grow around me that can grow this very well, this is just not working for me, and that's okay. I feel like this has been a very, very rough season for me, but it also has been a very eye-opening season, so yeah, that's going to be more in the future. We did get a few loofahs from it though, just the small ones to eat. Oh, but one more example of, I mentioned, like I said, Gomphrena, drought tolerant, looking great. But what's also looking great, the Madagascar lima bean. I purchased this at the local plant festival, and this is supposed to be drought tolerant, very good with heat and humidity, which I have. And look at it, another example of just growing what works for you. And from there, right over here, and another drought tolerant plant from the local plant festival that I got. It is the Guyana longbean, and it is growing, 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 and looking so good. That's great. And what's not looking too good? My Pippin's honey pepper. Last year they did do very, very well, or decently well for me. I don't think as well as they're supposed to, but look at this. There we go. They start out purple, then they turn like a sort of golden or maybe mustard yellow, and then they turn an orange, a light orange color like this, and it'll get a more reddish orange from this as well. But it's just a really neat pepper to have. But again, yeah, this is not a winning variety for my garden, but I still like it. Oh, and another melon planted the same day as the other ones I have shown you, so we'll see. Asian melons. And another Asian melon. But here is a winner. Definitely grow this. If you need drought tolerant plants, if you need greens in the summer of the heat and humidity, Egyptian spinach. Oh yes, I got 2 of them, and oh man, if these work out the way they generally do, this is gonna bush out like crazy. Let's see what else is working with the garden situations. Oh yes, for sure, the blue feathered lettuce. Oh, very nice. I know of only one place that sells this lettuce, and it is Baker Creek. They're not offering it right now, but a lot of the times I'll see things come back, you know, maybe next season or 2 or whatever. But the blue feathered lettuce, in the past few years I've been growing it, it is the last green that is lasting in my garden from the fall and winter season. In fact, a lot of my kales, well, there's a couple of kales out here, but they're getting all those harlequin, I think they're called harlequin bugs. But once I start seeing those seasonal bugs kind of coming in, I call it quits. I stop there. But these continue on, and I was trying to find where else they are sold, and I could not find any other name for them as well. But after looking at a seed catalog, and they were offering some wild lettuce, the picture looked just like this blue feathered lettuce. And I also saw, I think it was David the Good again, in one of his tours, he pointed out a wild lettuce he is growing, and it looked exactly like it. And I wouldn't doubt if this is the same, or at least basically the same thing as that wild lettuce, because this is just such a strong and vigorous grower. I will say though, if you are expecting like a butter crunch lettuce, this is not that. However, the rib in the middle of it is very crispy and good, and I'll chop it very thin and put it in our salads. And I also cook with these greens as well, and they taste really nice. Not as soft as a butter crunch, but not as tough as a kale. I'd say, well, the larger leaves, I'd say, is maybe in between that. But when you love your greens, you take what you can grow. Yes, we got our Thai soldier long beans. Oh good, they're looking better than they did before. I was actually getting a little nervous with them, and I was really feeling a little, like I said, discouraged lately with our garden. And when I saw these looking like they were struggling, I thought, oh my gosh, what is the deal? But they look like they're coming out of it. And I see something looking at us. See that thing? A leaf-footed bug. Ooh, nasty, nasty, nasty. Oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh. Get my husband out here and take care of that. Except these ones are not, they're very stunted, these ones, the Thai soldier long beans. I'm not quite sure what the deal is, but we'll let them go, we'll see. And coming over here, yes, my African potato mints coming up, a wonderful subtropical potato substitute. I am going to do a little video on my experience with those. Probably after that planting the one potato experiment video that I'm going to be releasing soon, but also self-seeded the red cranberry roselle. In fact, here is what was left over from last year. It was very big, very beautiful, so we're gonna let that keep going. Oh, something else that's working wonderfully. Drought tolerant is what I need to do with my plants. Look at this beautiful sun dune sunflower, or I think it's dune sunflower. But wow, it spreads across. This was actually a cutting that I was helping someone clean up their yard, and they were throwing the cuttings away, and I said, oh, can I take some of that? Planted it in my yard, and it spread all over the place. Here's a spent bloom. I mean, this thing is a wild, crazy grower, and just take cuttings, stick it in a glass, and you got yourself a good, beautiful flowering plant. And the flowers, the blooms themselves last a good while, you know, on the plant. You know how some flowers, they just bloom for a day or sometimes part of the day and they're gone. No, these last a while. It's nice. And more of the cassava, the root crop, tropical root crop. And yep, the nasturtiums are finally done. I'm just letting it go, letting it compost down and be a mulch for next season. And more mulch for next season. So coming around this corner here, we have, ooh, our jicama. 2 jicamas have made it. Let me get that out of here. I don't even know if I could say 2 jicamas made it. I mean, this one's the quote-unquote best one. It's doing something. But this one, yeah, just, I don't know. We'll see. But I will say, if you do check on the channel, I do have a surprise jicama harvest video, and that jicama plant, I mean, there's a reason why I said surprise jicama harvest, because I did not expect to get what I got in that video, because the plants there as well just kind of looked like this. They did not grow the way jicama should. They didn't have all the factors that are needed for great jicama harvests, but I thought I got a really good harvest. So I am trying to be hopeful with this because of what I saw last year. We'll see. Forgot to show, but in those beds that I had struggle growing things in this bed over here, I do have a roselle plant, and I did put in a few more right here. The roselle that make those little red calyxes. You can make tea out of them, jam. We do a lot of jam. But yeah, hopefully this will be filled and take over all this old tung-ho that I still have sitting out because I saw more bugs on it. And before these go away, are snapdragons. I am so shocked with how well these are growing. Even my husband said this is not a flower he would have thought would have grown well here, because I don't think these are tropical. I think of these as more like a temperate climate, English garden, but they're looking so good. I mean, this is not even, well, it's kind of their prime, but you can see there were a lot more blooms, and these are going to dry and become the seed pods. And when it's dry, you can pop these off and you know, break it open. It's like a little rattle. You break it open and all the seeds are in there, and they're very, very tiny. But yeah, they look so good. I thought they looked like a cluster of butterflies, and then my husband said they look like popcorn. What do you think? And that's just 2 plants in there. And I shouldn't have done it because I do have my beloved Corbaci pepper in this container. And I just feel like, well, I admit I didn't do my compost tea or fertilizing like I had done last year. It's just like I said, just trying to keep things alive and just really struggling. So yeah, you definitely can see when a gardener struggles, the garden itself can struggle as well. So I mean, we're still producing peppers. I did harvest a couple of really good sized ones, and usually with this plant, in my experience, and with many other peppers and things like this, is the fruit does tend to get smaller. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm just hoping we can get more than just what you see here. But yep, that one's on me though. I should fertilize more. But look at this pepper plant. Ooh. Can you see all the shishitos? They are green, so they kind of blend right in. A lot here, a lot. I already harvested a couple, and there's so many more starting as well. Yeah, this is a winner of a pepper plant for me. But again, notice this. The Corbaci has not only these 2 snapdragons in there, but they also have a spiderwort flower in there. That's that very beautiful purple looking flower I showed you on the first spring tour. And that's self-seeded. I didn't put that in there. But yeah, so there is competition for nutrients and water here. And in with the shishitos, there is nothing but the shishito, except for a green onion wanting to grow that a bird kept pulling out. So besides that, but that just shows you how important it is not to crowd grow things together if you know that you don't have a lot of fertilization in where you're growing your plant, because this is what happens. You still get something, it just may not be as healthy as it could be. And moving over here, more snapdragons, sharing a pot with this pepper that is new to me, the habanada, not a habanero. Very excited to try that. There's a few peppers in there I can see. Oh yeah, more than I thought. Might be hard to see, but there's 1, 2, 3. I think that's one up in there. There is the one I showed you right in there. And a ton of blooms showing up all the tops. So that tells me it's definitely not done. It just begun. So yeah, I'm excited to try that. And here's what I'm just going to accept as our summer garden. Just a lot of chop and drop. This is the old radishes that I had here in the corner of the bed that was very green, lush, had beautiful flowers, and now these are the seed pods. So yes, I'm gonna have radishes pop up here, but I'm okay with that. But this is just something I'm just going to be accepting moving forward in our summer garden, is just chopping and dropping things. Let it break down. Things break down so fast where I live that this could be beneficial for our crops for the fall and winter time. So yeah, it doesn't look pretty, but there's a purpose. And sometimes that's just more important to me, is purpose over beauty, because it will get beautiful. Here in this crazy mess is a lot of the food containers from the food container garden video I just put out. Not going to worry about that until fall and winter. But here is the African blue basil that I had purchased at that local plant festival. Doing very well. I have cuttings inside that are already ready to come out, so I'm going to work on that. more of the habanada. And I should pick that. It is a kohlrabi from fall and winter, but I want to see how far I can get it to go, how big it will get, and if it would still taste good in our very hot climate. We'll see. Taking you quickly to the side of the house. A perennial we'll be talking about later. Already producing its drumsticks. Oh, here's a vinca plant. Actually looking really good. I mean, it's not big and bushy, but I don't know, it just looks better. I think it was because of that little rain we got. But yeah, gotta get rid of these collards. Like I said, a lot of those harlequin bugs have been at them, so I think I'm just gonna call it quits with those. But a lot of the lemon basil has gone to seed. I'll admit, in my busyness and just feeling overwhelmed with the garden, I haven't been doing the tea that I thought I would do with them. And that's something, like I said, I'm going to talk about later in my videos, is that, we got to be realistic with ourselves, what we're going to do, what we're not going to do. It's good to push ourselves, but it's good to be real, But I do have more seed for next year, so that's cool. But again, doing well. These drought tolerant plants, this cassava, and also again, been focusing on the mulch. Been getting a lot of leaves in, and we've been putting leaves instead of wood chips against the house just because of possible termites. So that's something to think about when you're in a subtropical climate. But yeah, these projects, very important. In here, a few things. Got some of our CISO spinach that's looking really well. I really need to come in here and get more cuttings. Man, what a rain will do. It looks so good. It looks so good right now. And I need to cut this back. It is our mulberry. Oh, it produced the most mulberries we've ever had so far. And I'm actually seeing new growth. There we go, that little green bud there. So it wants to grow some more. I'll have to cut this back and get more mulberries from it. Coming down here, we have our black, what is it? Puerto Rican black beans. Oh, I'm excited for these. The Puerto Rican black beans. One here, and I have the other two on this side. I'll admit, I thought they'd be a little further along. I'll have to check my notes because maybe they need, I don't know. I mean, maybe we're on track. I don't know. As long as they're still growing, keep on going. More perennials, more things I want to talk about later. I did put in some more Thai soldier long beans because a couple of the Puerto Rican black beans got nipped by something, so we'll still get some beans up this trellis. And you might notice that my large lemongrass here have been taken out. One there and one here. And all I did was I dug it out. It was quite the task. And I just laid the lemongrass all along this garden bed. In fact, here's some of the remnants of that all in this bed, along with the oak leaves that I got. And we're just building up this area, and I planted a couple more pieces, as you can see, here and here, so that way they'll grow into lemongrass again, and we'll do it all over again. So not only is it good for teas, but you can use it as a chop and drop for your garden, for mulch and that sort of thing, and that's something we actually do a lot of with our lemongrass. And it's drought tolerant. All those lemongrasses. Whoop, whoop. Now I'm going to magically take you to the front yard and show you what's going on. I have a little makeshift bed of just what I have going on. Random stones, pine cones. But in this bed is what's important. I have more of the roselle I was talking about, and this is actually growing in nothing but sand. I did nothing into this bed besides pull out the grass and put some mulch on top of it, and it's looking pretty good. So we kind of did this last year. I'm hoping to have a nice, just big, just front yard of roselle where we can make our jams and our teas. And look at here. This is a passion fruit vine starting. I'm gonna have to take care of him. But speaking of passion fruit, looking up this tree is more passion fruit. I don't know if you can see it. It might be hard to tell because we're kind of in the shade. But yeah, see all of them? Oh, there's tons and tons more. This is the same plant from last year. Way up at the tippity top. And I did not know it was making more passion fruit until randomly I looked up one day. Tons of these green balls that are going to turn purple, and they will fall off of the tree, and then we will have passion fruit to eat. So cool. What a success. Coming down from the passion vine, I do have some pineapples put in around the tree. This one's a sugar loaf, I believe. Got this from the big box store, and I know they say pineapple is easy to take care of, but with the lack of rain, besides yesterday, like I said, the lack of rain, they were not doing too well. But since I've been watering them just about every day, they have been getting their green color back on them. The red on it, I believe, is a variety thing because I looked that up. But I mean, it's just looking much better now that I gave it water. And another one. And it looks really nice, a nice edible ornamental, I think, toward the front of the house. More of this blue feather lettuce looking good. In this bed at the front of the house, I told you that I did not amend it with any compost or anything. I literally just put the plants in the ground, filled it up with water, and kept it watered about every day, which kind of helped. But, you know, it's just not as good as if I really amended this space. But I am doing a lot of chop and drop. In fact, on the side of my house, I have the Mexican sunflowers right here on the side. And these we're going to chop down and put into our garden spaces. And that's going to help because it's a lot of amending to do. But I've been raking as much leaves as I can to cover the ground and to help feed our soil. But still, some things are growing. This is the Lagos spinach that we saw in a lot of the spring tours. And you can cook these greens. It is wonderful. And I did successfully take cuttings from this plant. And next door, I was raving about this, the pink amaranth. And last year, I wish I had pictures, but this plant got to be like this small hedge. And this year, I don't think it's going to get that big. I am not sure why it did so well last year, not this year, but still been eating from it. And it's very beautiful. Even though the bugs have been nipping at it, as you can see, just very gorgeous. And being that I'm struggling keeping some of these alive because it has been so hot out, I have plugged in more roselle. Down the line, I think that's what I might do next year, just because it does do decently well, even though it's growing in nothing but sand. So yeah, a work in progress. More of the beautiful vincas. It is going to seed. You can see some of the seed pods there. And still wonderful. Grows very well again. Drought tolerant. I need to do that. And not doing so well. Oh, so disappointed. This is the only ashwagandha plant that is in my whole garden with all those seedlings I had done. If you saw the spring seedling tours, you saw these in their seed cells, and they looked great. And then all of a sudden they got those spider mites on them, and I don't know if you can tell, but the leaves have like these white spots on them, I guess you could say. There you go. and that usually is a sign of spider mite damage because of, I guess they suck the juices out of the plant or whatever they do. But it's just a good sign to tell you that you have a problem. And I have used soapy water and that sort of thing, but man, they just hit hard. So I am gonna try that again next year. And another pineapple. Something else I grew on the side has got some aloe vera. We are now here in my carport, and this, if you remember from the purchasing of the plants from the local plant festival, is the chia cutting that I had gotten from the Urban Harvest booth. And wow, I was, sometimes you look at those cuttings and you just don't think it's going to work. And wow, look at all that branching. Yeah, so we're gonna have to get this out soon. And another thing from the plant festival, the ginger plant. I am now going to try ginger in containers because I feel I'm going to be able to better care for it instead of, trying to compete with the heat, because all my other gingers in the garden had disappeared because of last year. So this is going to help me have ginger. And last and truly not least, do you recognize this plant? Oh yes. If you saw my video of harvesting blue turmeric and then you saw all those weird little bulbs on the bottom of them, I did a follow-up video of what are these little bulbs that are on my turmeric. If you saw the video, you saw that I had a difficult time researching what it was. But with the little information I found and the general knowledge I know in how plants grow, I did an experiment in that video, and that experiment was a success. So check out that video because I think it's just a good lesson for gardeners in how to research your plants, or just really anything in life, a bit of research, a bit of your observations, put them together, and look at that. I am very proud of this. Yes, this may be a very difficult season for me to garden in, but in surrendering to nature, the weather, the climate, how it's affecting your garden, and being realistic with yourself, this acceptance will help you find out what is working in your garden and help you feel good as a gardener too. At least that's what I'm finding out. Thank you for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.